Hi, everyone. My name is Brian. Welcome back to the Everything Suffolk podcast, where today we're talking about the county executive's first operating budget. County executive, would like to say hello?
Yes, good day. One of the things that you have to do every year is submit a budget, and this is an operating budget which was submitted on time. The first operating budget submitted on time in the last 3 years. So we were on time and hopefully on the money. The budget is about $4 billion. Last year was 3.9, so it went up slightly, a little bit more than $100,000 in that time. Um, some of the reasons for the increases, which is kind of incredible that we were able to manage that, was the fact that medical costs for health insurance went up by $69 million.
Is that just on the county end, or is that including Medicaid stuff
No,
as
no,
well?
no, no. It has
Oh, no,
nothing to do
nothing
with
with that.
Medicaid. That's
Okay.
a whole different story that the state is going to give us. This is just for county employees for their health plan.
Understood.
Went up by $69 million, which is a lot. And it's not us alone, it's every municipality dealing with health care costs for their employees. So it's not just Suffolk, but that's a huge increase in 1 year. The other one was the pension. As you know, we're in the New York State pension system, and that changed, particularly because of changes the state legislature made to make tier 6 a more lucrative tier for employees in that tier. So that pension costs went up by $43 million.
Wow.
And then we had sales tax. Sales tax, the last administration estimated a certain amount for sales tax. Well, guess what? The estimates fell short. In reality, we're about $50 million short of what was estimated for the 2024 budget. Just to give you an example, sales tax just on gasoline sales are down by 9.6%, which means there's a big drop in gasoline sales, but there'll be a big drop in other sales because of inflation. People tend to spend less because their dollar doesn't go as far. So sales tax drop. We're hoping that sales tax will pick up this year. We put in for a 2.52% increase based on a consultant that we hired who did all the analysis. It was less than what the Budget Review Office had originally thought it should be, but we wanted to be very conservative because we saw what the shortfall did to us in 24. We didn't want to be there in 25. So, yeah, we deal with a lot of different issues in putting together a budget, and one of them are what are some of the priorities. One of our priorities is to make Suffolk County a little bit safer than it is. And to do that, we had a debate about enhancing our police department. But I will say this, I've looked at most of the county departments, and many of them are understaffed. And the police department, if we want to have a safe county, we're going to have sufficient police. We added 200 police officers to our budget. Now, after retirement, both in 24 and 25, that will be a net gain of about 95 police officers. So we
It's
want
not just police, though. It's also corrections and sheriffs as well, or
deputy
just
sheriffs.
dip
We
sheriffs?
added another 30 deputy sheriffs separate from that, and we added more for corrections. We're having a lot of trouble recruiting and retaining people for corrections, and we're probably going to have to take a look at what we pay these people because the dollar that we paid them isn't going to as far as it used to go. Inflation has eaten away, and all of our contracts are up this year,
Yeah.
which is a wonderful predict because we have to negotiate with 9 different unions, all of whom feel that inflation has eaten away at the dollar they make. And I understand that, and we have an obligation to try to retain and recruit the best candidates that we can for the various jobs in the county. So those are some of the things that we look at. When we look at a budget, the one thing that I keep in mind when I put together a budget is the taxpayer, because the taxpayer is the person paying the bill. So we made sure that when we put this budget together, as I said it would, it complies with the Suffolk County restrictions and it complies with the New York State tax cap. So all of my budget complies with the tax cap, doesn't exceed the tax cap, so that we stay within that and we tell taxpayers, no matter what our issues are, you are not going to pay more than whatever the tax cap, which is I think 2% this year. It was 2% last year. So whatever that is where we're going to stop and not go beyond that. And we're going to have to manage with what we have. But we're trying to add people where we need it. We added people to social services. We added people to the sheriff's department, to the police department. We added people to our IT department, which was criticized because of the lack of cybersecurity that they had under the last administration.
And a lot of these additions, if I'm not mistaken, they're already funded. So it's not as though when you're adding positions,
Most of them are funded.
filling.
Some of them were left vacant and unfunded.
Unfunded.
But we're making sure that anything that was funded gets filled.
Yeah.
Because we owe it to the taxpayer. If we're going to tax you, we owe it to you to provide those services.
Yeah.
And we got hit real hard on cybersecurity in the last administration. We have taken charge of that. We have a new CIO, Chief Information Officer, who used to be the Chief Information Officer in Westchester and before that in Orange County. He's a very knowledgeable guy. We have top staff over there, and we've added staff so that our IT department is going to be prepared for anything, including another cyber attack. We are working towards getting cybersecurity insurance. We have hired a Chief Security Information Officer, a Cisco, and we've hired Dell as a virtual Cisco. So we have an actual guy that's working in the IT department, and we have hired Dell as a virtual CISO, so a belt and suspenders for cybersecurity.
And this is all funded through the next year's
That's
budget.
all funded in the budget that I presented. Again, I have partners. I have 18 partners.
Yep.
So I present the budget, which I did, and it's before the legislature. They now work on it until the day after election when they vote on it. And they can add or subtract to that budget. And we'll see what they do. And I have the ultimate right to do a line item veto. But my attitude is I want to work with all legislators. They're good people. They're my partners in government. So whenever possible, we're going to work together. And I don't think we're going to have any major disagreements over this budget.
And then with this budget, do we set all the different funds? There's the police fund, there's the college fund. There's all there's a lot of different things. That all comes from
Right.
Yeah.
College fund is a separate line on the budget for the community college, which is independent of most of county government. The police budget is a police district. It's a special district that encompasses the 5 western towns. The 5 eastern towns and 4 villages on the west end and 5 villages on the east end are not covered.
And then also, when you're creating a budget, obviously it's a group effort, but how does all this information get up to the executive office here?
We have extremely talented people, which I am happy to say is our budget office, headed by Trish Saunders and Nick Paglia. Which is the deputy budget director. They do a great job. Their staff works around the clock. I cannot sing their praises. And then, of course, we have a deputy county executive for finance, Christine Capabianco, who I've known for years. Very talented lady. She was our chief deputy county comptroller for 12 years. And for the last 9 years, she was the deputy at the health department, running all the finances for the health department. Very knowledgeable about finances, very accomplished person. I am gifted and blessed to have people that are much smarter than with me. And any good leader surrounds himself with people that are smarter than himself. And I've done that, and I'm happy to say that these people have helped me tremendously with this budget.
Good. And then now the budget's made. You did touch on some of the changes to IT, DSS that you've made. Are there any other departments that are seeing big changes, whether in staffing or purpose or anything like that?
I would say 311. We've worked on modifying 311, which is our call center. So if you have a problem, call 311. And It used to take, people told me hours. I can't believe it, but that's what they said.
I hear the average call time was over an hour, so that means that there were some
Yeah.
that must have been much longer to push the
Right.
average up that high.
Now the average is down to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons for that is I had a call center management when I was in Brookhaven town. His name was Kevin Malloy, who is now our chief deputy county executive. So he helped by bringing people over to Brookhaven and showing them what we should be doing and how we should run a call center. The most important thing in a call center is not to transfer a call. It's to try to take a call and answer it.
Yeah.
And if you can't answer it, you transfer it to a warm body, a voice, not to a message where, I'm sorry, I'm out of the office, call back at another time. We have to start being far more responsive to the citizens of this county.
Yeah. I think we definitely have. I think we've
Right.
definitely shortened it up a little bit. And then other than 3-1, are there any other major changes or priorities that you'd like to share?
The only other priority which I want to share is we do have a very large reserve account.
Yeah.
And I could have tapped into the reserve account, but I chose not to because I'm trying to convince the rating agencies to upgrade the county. Right now, we were AA minus and we got upgraded to A plus. I'm looking before my tenure is over to get this county rated as AAA, which is the top, so that our bonds will sell quickly and at a very low cost to the taxpayer. And this will save a lot more money over the long run.
Yeah.
So we didn't touch the reserve accounts this year, but they're there.
And they stayed level at the.
They actually are probably growing a little bit,
Okay.
but they stayed at a good rate to convince the rating agencies in Wall Street that we are financially secure. This county had been facing bankruptcy in 2018 and 19. Unfortunately, the pandemic came along and we got lots of federal funds, all of which end this year.
Yeah.
So we have to be very cautious about going forward. We have to make sure that our sales tax is on the money and that we're doing the right thing in terms of the taxpayer. So we're staying within the tax cap. We have a cost-efficient budget. We have a budget that is going to see us through, provide adequate services, increase staffing, and do some of the things that are so necessary in this county. So I'm very optimistic that this budget will be adopted without too much change. And I suspect it will be because of the 18 legislators, we have a lot of level-headed people that are going to look at this and say, well, what would I do to change it? Maybe they'll put in their favorite non-for-profit or something of that nature. But essentially, I don't see a lot of changes happening to this budget because it is a common sense, taxpayer-friendly budget. Not that we're not raising taxes, we are, but we're not exceeding the tax cap.
Yeah.
So we're keeping it as low as possible to provide as much services as we can.
All right. Well, that sounds very good then. I look forward to covering this budget once it gets implemented following the vote.
Well, budgets are important.
Yeah.
You tell me how your government spends the money and how it raises it, and I'll tell you what type of government you have. So I'm hoping that this budget is a common sense budget and people see it as an investment to make sure that their government is responsive. And we're here for the taxpayer, most importantly, but we also have an obligation to make sure that county government operates efficiently and effectively and responds to the needs of this county.